Hey, what's up, everybody? Jazz Gonzo here. What's next? All right. In our ongoing theme of Ukraine, Russia, but it seems like these days everything is Ukraine, Russia related. The one thing that you should not be hearing is about race. Why would it? You have Ukrainian people, you have the Russian oligarchy trying to take over a small country. And of course, it's affecting everything around us. But sadly, there are those who live in that world who just cannot help themselves but calling everything racist. And sadly, we have to go to that wonderful, wonderful land of woke, ran by the mayor herself, one joyless Reid, in another exciting episode of The Joys of Reid. Ugh. Let's go. This coming out of Breitbart. Reid, world paying attention to Ukraine because it's white and Christian. MSLSD host Joy Reid said Monday on her show, The Tune Out, that the world is paying attention to Russian invasion of Ukraine because it was white and largely Christian. As the world watches the devastation unfold in Ukraine, nearly 4,000 miles away, yet crisis is deepening. That we don't hear much about in the U.S. is that the war in Yemen. She continued, we are seeing Ukraine is absolutely the worst humanitarian crisis in Europe is seen in decades, but we haven't witnessed the same type of solidarity for the Yemenis as we do the Ukrainians. We don't see global campaigns. Corporations like Airnub and Netflix taking a stand. We don't say we shouldn't care this much about Ukraine. Far from it. The point is, we should also care as much as for Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Let's face it, the world's paid attention because it's happening in Europe. If this were happening everywhere else, would we see the same outpouring for support and compassion? We don't need to ask ourselves. The international response will be the same if Russia unleashed their horror on a country that was not white and largely Christian. Let's hear out of the mouth of trash.
As the world watches the devastation unfold in Ukraine, nearly 4,000 miles away, another crisis is deepening that we don't hear much about in the U.S., and that is the war in Yemen. In March of 2015, a Saudi-led coalition backed by the United States intervened militarily in Yemen in a bid to fight Iran-backed Houthi rebels. It has triggered one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world due to widespread hunger, disease, and attacks on civilians. 4 million Yemenis have been forced to flee their homes. Now, what we're seeing in Ukraine is absolutely the worst humanitarian crisis that Europe has seen in decades. But we haven't witnessed the same type of solidarity for the Yemenis as we do for the Ukrainians. We don't see historic sanctions or global campaigns, corporations like Airbnb and Netflix taking a stand. And this is not to say that we shouldn't care this much for Ukraine, far from it. The point is, we should also care this much for refugees and those facing occupation and war in the Middle East and Asia and Africa, too. The coverage of Ukraine has revealed a pretty radical disparity in how human Ukrainians look and feel to Western media compared to their browner and blacker counterparts, with some reporters using very telling comparisons in their analyses of the war.
Here's the morsel.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles.
The unthinkable has happened to them. And this is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe.
This isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too,
of course you do.
Where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
Civilized. Okay, let's face it. The world is paying attention because this is happening in Europe. If this was happening anywhere else, would we see the same outpouring of support and compassion? Well, we don't need to ask ourselves if the international response would be the same if Russia unleashed their horror on a country that wasn't white and largely Christian.
There it is. All right. My thoughts. I just wanted to, even though I read it, I wanted you to hear it out of her mouth because, of course, when you're seeing everything through a constant prism of racism, systematic racism, and the whiteness, That's all you're going to get. And you would think that it's got to come a point in time where she would just flip the page already. Get a new book. Put a new record on. For all you old heads out there. But no, this is what Joy Reid does. And speaking of, let me just jump back real quick, because a particular person who really, we've never done a story. I've never done one, and I really don't care. But in this context, oh, it plays perfectly. This also comes out of Breitbart. Louis Farrakhan. Yes, remember him, Louis Farrakhan, the anti-Semitic piece of shit? Yes. On Ukraine. Russia will fall. All white power has to end. No bother reading the story. No need. You already get the gist. But this is what happens when you let the fucking clowns be fucking clowns. You know, when you have racist clowns like Reid and Farrakhan. Two peas in a pod. They fit well and they work well together. But, yeah. Thanks for tuning in for another exciting and thought-provoking episode of The Joyless Reid. Yikes. And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more just like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we catch you guys next time. Peace.